the quiet power that stays with people. Some women don't need to do anything extraordinary to be remembered. They don't enter a room trying to please. They don't compete for attention, and they don't conform to what is expected of them. Yet, after they leave, something remains. A feeling that's hard to explain, but impossible to ignore. People remember how they felt around them, how the conversation flowed effortlessly, about how the silence wasn't awkward, but comfortable. And almost no one can explain exactly why this is, because we've been taught to believe that being unforgettable has to do with beauty, charisma, or performance. But the truth is much more subtle and much deeper. Some women are not unforgettable for what they do. They are unforgettable for what they don't. These women are remarkable not only in romantic relationships. They are remembered by their families, respected at work, sought after by friends, and valued in any environment they are in, because there is something in the way they position themselves emotionally that creates an impact. Effortlessly and without imposition. It's not about trying to be interesting all the time, nor about always being available, nor about over-explaining who you are or what you feel. On the contrary, often, what makes a woman unforgettable is the way she doesn't abandon herself emotionally in order to be accepted. She doesn't rush relationships, doesn't force intimacy, and doesn't mold herself to fit other people's expectations. There's a silent coherence between what she feels, what she thinks, and how she expresses herself. And this coherence is perceived even when no one talks about it. In this video, you'll understand why some women leave a deep mark on the people and environments they pass through, not because they tried to be memorable, but because they knew how to occupy their own space with presence, awareness, and emotional stability. And, most importantly, you'll realize that this is not a rare talent or an unattainable personality trait, but a direct result of internal choices that many women make without even realizing it. If this type of reflection already resonates with you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. When you do this, YouTube understands that this content is relevant and starts delivering it to more women who are also seeking emotional maturity, clarity, and more conscious relationships. And feel free to comment. In which areas of your life do you feel you want to be more present? In your family, at work, in your friendships, or in your love life? Your experience can help other women feel less alone in this process. They don't chase connection, they allow it to form. There is a silent but crucial difference between a woman who seeks connection and a woman who allows connection to happen. And this difference is felt in all environments. In the family, in friendships, at work, and especially in romantic relationships. The woman who becomes unforgettable doesn't try to rush relationships, doesn't force emotional closeness, and doesn't anticipate the other person's pace to guarantee acceptance. She understands, even if intuitively, that true connections are born not from urgency, but from emotional security. When a woman pursues connection, she's usually trying to alleviate internal anxiety. She talks more than she feels, explains more than she needs to, offers more than is asked for, and gets close before even realizing if there's real space for it. And, without realizing it, this haste creates resistance, not connection. The woman who allows the connection to form naturally has a completely different attitude. She approaches with curiosity, but without expectation. She gets involved, but doesn't rush. She is available, but doesn't abandon herself. There is a silent confidence within her that healthy relationships don't need to be forced to exist in the family environment. This manifests itself when she doesn't try to be everyone's emotional center, nor does she take responsibility for other people's feelings. She participates, listens, supports, but respects the boundaries of what is hers and what belongs to others. And, interestingly, it is precisely this attitude that makes her presence valued and respected in friendships. She doesn't compete for attention, nor does she feel threatened by silence or time. She understands that true bonds don't need constant proof of loyalty or continuous presence to stay alive. This creates lighter, more lasting, and emotionally more secure relationships. At work, this woman doesn't try to stand out by pleasing everyone or making herself indispensable. She allows her competence, her poise, and her clarity to speak for themselves. And by not begging for recognition, she ends up being naturally respected. And in love, this difference becomes even more evident. She doesn't try to conquer by occupying all of the other person's emotional spaces. She doesn't confuse interest with unlimited availability. She allows the bond to grow at the right time, knowing that what needs to be forced rarely lasts. Women who are hard to forget don't form bonds out of neediness. They form bonds out of presence, and this completely changes how they are perceived and remembered. They don't explain themselves too much because their presence already says enough. There is a very common behavior that dilutes a woman's emotional presence without her realizing it. The constant need to explain herself, explaining what she feels, explaining what she meant, explaining why she acted a certain way, explaining so as not to be misunderstood, explaining so as not to disappoint, explaining so as not to lose ground. The woman who becomes unforgettable doesn't live in a state of constant need for justification, not because she's cold or distant, but because she trusts in the consistency between what she feels, what she thinks, and what she expresses. When that consistency exists, the urge to explain herself simply disappears. In the family environment, this becomes apparent when she doesn't need to constantly defend herself emotionally or justify her boundaries to be respected. She expresses her views clearly, but without lengthy narratives. And this quiet firmness communicates far more than any lengthy explanation. In friendships, she doesn't try to fix every misunderstanding with excessive words, nor does she feel obligated to prove her intentions all the time. She understands that healthy bonds can tolerate silence, space, and minor imperfections without threatening the relationship. At work, this attitude translates into objectivity and presence. She doesn't anticipate criticism, doesn't apologize for existing, and doesn't dilute her ideas trying to please others. Her communication is clear because she is not emotionally insecure about her own worth. And in love, this difference is felt deeply. She doesn't explain feelings before the other person has space to feel them. She doesn't justify herself by wanting less, nor does she defend herself by needing time. This emotional restraint creates respect, curiosity, and depth, because the other person perceives that they are in the presence of someone who doesn't abandon themselves in order to be understood. Women who are hard to forget don't talk too much about who they are. They allow people to feel, and this leaves much deeper scars than any explanation can. They don't try to be everything to everyone because they know who they are. There is a silent pressure on many women to be agreeable, understanding, available, and emotionally accessible at all times. From a young age, we learn that being liked means adapting, yielding, accommodating, and often diminishing parts of ourselves to avoid causing discomfort. The problem is that when a woman tries to be everything to everyone, she slowly ceases to be memorable. The woman who becomes unforgettable doesn't live trying to fit into every space. She understands that belonging doesn't come from constant adaptation, but from integrity. She possesses an inner clarity about who she is, what she values, and what she's not willing to compromise on. And this clarity naturally guides her choices, her relationships, and her boundaries. In the family, this manifests when she doesn't take on roles that aren't hers, nor does she carry emotional responsibilities that don't belong to her. She participates with presence and affection, but doesn't erase herself to maintain harmony. And this posture, even if silent, establishes respect in her friendships. She doesn't change her essence to be accepted into different groups, nor does she adjust her personality to avoid rejection. She allows some bonds to drift apart naturally, knowing that true affinity doesn't require constant performance. At work, this woman doesn't try to please everyone or conform to contradictory expectations. She delivers consistency, clarity, and a clear stance, even knowing that this might not please everyone. And precisely for that reason, her presence becomes reliable and solid. And in love, this inner strength creates something rare. She doesn't transform herself to be chosen, nor does she abandon her values to maintain a connection. She shows herself as she is, calmly and truthfully, allowing the other person to get closer to the real woman, not a version adapted to please her. Women who are hard to forget aren't emotionally versatile for everyone. They are true to themselves, and this integrity is profoundly remarkable. They don't rush emotional moments because they trust in time and silence. There is a very common anxiety that permeates almost every area of a woman's life. The need to resolve everything quickly, solving conflicts, clarifying feelings, defining relationships, filling silences, and reaching conclusions before emotions even have time to settle. The problem is that when everything is rushed, little is truly felt. The woman who becomes unforgettable understands something fundamental. Not every moment requires an immediate response. Not every emotion needs to be explained right away. And not every silence is a problem to be fixed. She trusts time as part of the connection and silence as part of communication. In the family, this manifests when she doesn't try to emotionally organize everyone around her, nor resolve tensions before each person is ready to do so. She respects people's internal timing, and this maturity creates less reactive and deeper relationships. In friendships, she doesn't panic when faced with pauses, temporary separations, or changes in pace. She understands that true bonds breathe, adjust, and mature over time, without needing constant demands or immediate explanations. At work, this attitude translates into clarity and self. She doesn't react impulsively to pressure, doesn't respond in the heat of the moment, and doesn't make decisions driven by the emotional urgency of the environment. This strategic.com inspires confidence and respect. And in love, this difference is deeply felt. She doesn't try to define the relationship before there's a sufficient emotional foundation. She doesn't force conversations to alleviate insecurities. And she doesn't fill every silence with words. By allowing space to exist, she creates depth, desire, and real connection. Women who are hard to forget know how to wait without disconnecting. They know how to be silent without distancing themselves. And they know that time, when respected, reveals much more than any haste. Why presence is what makes a woman truly unforgettable. Throughout this video, you may have noticed something important. Women who are impossible to forget don't live trying to make an impact. They don't build bonds through urgency. They don't sustain relationships through excessive adaptation. And they don't make their presence felt through emotional intensity. What makes them memorable is something much quieter and much rarer. These women know who they are. They know where they stand emotionally. And they don't abandon themselves in order to be accepted. They allow relationships to unfold in their own time. They don't over-explain themselves. They don't try to be everything to everyone. And they don't rush moments that need time to mature. They possess an inner stability that creates security around them, whether in family, friendships, work, or love. And it is precisely this security that remains in people's memory. Not as a specific image, but as a feeling. The feeling of having been in the presence of someone whole, present, coherent, and emotionally available without being intrusive. The feeling that there was no game, no neediness, no hurry, only truth. Ultimately, being unforgettable isn't about being chosen. It's about not getting lost. Do not dilute. Don't mold yourself until you disappear. When a woman occupies her own space with awareness and presence, she leaves a profound mark simply by being who she is. And this completely changes how she is perceived and remembered in any relationship she builds. If this video helped you see your own emotional presence more clearly, please like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This signals to YouTube that this type of content matters and helps heart-smart women reach more women who are ready for more mature, conscious, and genuine relationships. And tell me in the comments, which of these attitudes do you feel you most want to strengthen in your life right now? Your reflection might be exactly what another woman needs to read today. I'll see you in the next video.